Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be discussing the Kansas City Chiefs offense and what to expect from them in 2020. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. And on a quick side note, if you don't already know, I've been writing some articles for the updog.com, which is basically a sports article website where anyone under the age of 22 can post articles on any sports topic that they're interested in. If any of you are, interested in reading some of the articles on the website, feel free to go check those out. I'll leave a link to them in the description down below. There are some really interesting articles up, and we're coming out with new content daily. Secondly, if any of you are under the age of 22 and are interested in doing some sports writing, then you can sign up on the updog.com immediately. By the way, it's free and you can write as much or as little as you want. The only requirements are that you're under 22 and are interested in sports writing. If this is something that even partially interests you, why not give it a shot? It's a good thing to put on a resume, and once again, you can write as much or as little as you want. I'll leave the link in the description down below for those that are interested. Now let's dive right into the video, and I hope you enjoy. So before we get started on talking about the Chiefs offense in 2020, let's talk about what they did well in 2019. So in 2019, they were 6th in total yards, 5th in passing yards, 23rd in rushing yards, 5th in total points, and they were tied for the 3rd least turnovers. So basically, they were a top 5 offense in the NFL, and that's pretty impressive given that Tyreek Hill missed a few games, and so did Patrick Mahomes. Plus, their offensive line wasn't healthy the entire season, so they did have some injury concerns, and nonetheless, they were still a top 5 offense without some star power. Yet, scheme-wise, Andy Reid started out as a West Coast guy, which he ran pretty well in Philadelphia for a period of time. But if you call the Chiefs offense a West Coast offense, then you're just missing a ton of what they do. Yes, there are a lot of West Coast things that are in that offense, but Reid is constantly innovating, looking at college game to help innovate his offense and to create the most modern and most dynamic and high-scoring offense possible at the NFL level. Reid's play calling and just offensive scheme makes guys open, but when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, do you really need anybody open? Therefore, having Patrick Mahomes, who's probably the best quarterback in the NFL, and having Andy Reid, who's probably the best offensive mind in the NFL, makes the Chiefs offense just unfair. Then you have to add in the speed and the stars with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and an above average offensive line, then you've got a super team. And this is exactly what this Chiefs team is. It's a super team. They're keeping Patrick Mahomes around for the next 10 years. And in the next 10 years, I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes could be scary. Now let's talk about the players on this offensive unit. And of course, we're going to start with Patrick Mahomes, who is not only an MVP type player, but he is a Pro Bowl type player and an first team all pro type player. Mahomes, as I said, is probably the best quarterback in the NFL. Yes, there's a little bit of conversation of maybe Lamar Jackson, but nonetheless, I mean, Mahomes has got the arm talent, he's got the poise, he's got the playoff experience, and he's just the best quarterback in the NFL. That's just what it is. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time first-team All-Pro member. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's an MVP player. I mean, he's got all the accolades that you've ever needed from a 3-year quarterback. So obviously, he sat his first season in Kansas City, but in 2018, that was the year he won his MVP. He threw for over 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Although his numbers last year were not as good, he still was excellent. In 14 games, he missed a few games due to injury. He threw for over 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. If he'd played all 16 games, he probably could have thrown for 4,500 yards, 32, 33 touchdowns, and probably 6 interceptions. Those still would be great stats, and the truth is it's very hard to back up a historic MVP campaign with another campaign just as or even close to as good. Therefore, I mean, 26 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, that's nothing to worry about. And he still threw for over 4,000 yards. And his completion percentage was basically the same. In 2018, it was 66%, and in 2019, it was 65.9%. The Chiefs are really going to need Patrick Mahomes' arm. They throw the football more than 60% of the time, or at least they did last year. And if they throw the football that much, that's above league average. So they're going to want Patrick Mahomes to be as good as he's been in the past. Nonetheless, Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, and with Reid and Mahomes, this offense is always going to be scary. Now let's move to the running backs. I want to talk about LeSean McCoy before I talk about the running backs on the roster. McCoy is no longer going to be a Chief in 2020. Right now, he's a free agent. We don't really know where he's going to sign. But nonetheless, in Kansas City last year, he had 465 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Those numbers will be missed, but nonetheless, the Chiefs ended up bringing another running back this offseason to help fill McCoy's shoes. In the NFL draft in the first round, they brought in running back Clyde Edwards Helaire out of LSU. Edwards Helaire is your modern prototypical running back. He can rush the football, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he does both very well. If you look at what he did at LSU last year, he rushed for over 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, and he had 55 receptions and 453 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. He can make an impact in the passing game. He can make an impact running the football. And overall, Clyde Edwards Helaire is awesome. I personally didn't think he was the best running back in the NFL draft, but I actually think he was the best running back that would fit this Chiefs system. They want to run the football. They want to use the running backs in the pass game, and that is what Clyde Edwards Helaire does. Now let's move on to the wide receivers, or let's just call them the track stars. Every single wide receiver on this team is fast. They are blazing fast, and they're, of course, led by Tyreek Hill, the 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro member, and 1-time Super Bowl champion. In 2019, Hill made the Pro Bowl, and he only played in 12 games, had 58 catches for 860 receiving yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. That is by no means his best season. That's probably actually one of his worst seasons in his 4-year career. In 2018, he was a Pro Bowler and a first-team All-Pro member. He played in 16 games. He had 87 catches for just shy of 1,500 yards and 12 receiving touchdowns. Now, that is what I call a Tyreek Hill kind of season. Hill is elite. He has great speed. He stretches the field, and he's basically an all-around weapon for this Chiefs offense. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, that pass from Mahomes to Tyreek Hill on that third down play really helped ignite that Chiefs offense, and Tyreek Hill is part of that young core of players on this Chiefs offense that is going to be with them for a while, hopefully. And with him and Mahomes, anything is really possible. They've also got Sammy Watkins, who's also another track star, basically. He won the Super Bowl with the Chiefs last year, and there was a little bit of speculation that he wouldn't play in 2020, but that seems to have cleared up, and it seems that he's going to be playing next season. In 2019, he had 52 catches for 673 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. He's a little bit of a bigger receiver than Hill, but once again, he stretches the field. But the thing with Sammy Watkins is he can go up and catch the football a little bit, so he could be a better red zone threat for this Chiefs offense in the future. They've also got Mecole Hardman, who went to the Pro Bowl last year as, I believe, a special teamer. He won the Super Bowl with the Chiefs last year, and he was a vital player when Tyreek Hill missed a little bit of time. And in 2019, if you look at Hardman's stats, they're actually really surprising. He only had 26 catches, but he still managed 538 receiving yards on a 20.7 average yards per reception. That's one of the highest in the league, and anytime you're above 18, 17 yards per reception, you really know this guy is stretching the field, and he's a big, deep threat. He also had 6 receiving touchdowns, and if Hardman's able to continue to do that in 2020, that's going to be really impressive. I mean, if you're able to do that much damage on only 26 catches, you're a real threat for this offense, and I think he could continue to be a threat in the future. Another wide receiver that they have on the roster is another fast guy in Demarcus Robinson. One game, I think, against the Ravens, Demarcus Robinson had a great touchdown catch there in the back left of the end zone, and last season he really just proved to the Chiefs that he could be a versatile player in that offense and could be another guy to stretch the field. He's another fast player. In 2019, he had 32 catches and 449 receiving yards. And I think with him, Hardman, Sammy Watkins, and Tyreek Hill, it's not only a fast receiving core, but it's going to be a very good receiving core. Now let's move to the tight end in Travis Kelce. Now, with the Chiefs offense, this is what really bothers me. They're great at running back. They're great at wide receiver. Why do they also have to be great at tight end? It's going to be a nightmare for the AFC West and for the rest of the AFC in general for the next few seasons if this core of players are able to stay around. Travis Kelce is a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's a 2-time All-Pro member, and he won the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs. In 2019, he was a Pro Bowler. He played in all 16 games, had 97 catches for 1,229 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. The year before, he had 103 catches for 1,300 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns. So he's a big red zone threat. He's a big all-around threat, and he's probably Patrick Mahomes' most trusted target in the passing game. I think that Mahomes really is going to count on Kelsey, especially in the red zone. I mean, Kelsey's always pretty much throughout his career been a big red zone guy. I mean, in the past 3 seasons, he's had 23 receiving touchdowns, and that averages just shy of 8 receiving touchdowns a year. Therefore, look for Kelsey to continue to be the best tight end in the NFL. Yes, he's got some competition with George Kittle up and coming, but I think Kelsey's just a better pass catcher than Kittle, although Kittle's probably a better run blocker. Therefore, I think Kelsey will at least be the best pass-catching tight end in the NFL next season, and I think he will continue to be the best pass-catching tight end in the years to come. Now let's move on to this offensive line. This offensive line is not elite, right? If you look at some of the better offenses in the NFL, you'll see that they have great offensive lines. If you look at the Cowboys, if you look at the Saints, those are both teams that have really good offensive lines. Even if you look at the Ravens, But with the Chiefs, they probably have the worst offensive line of the elite offenses in the NFL, and yet they're still able to do a ton of damage. Eric Fisher, after being drafted first overall back, I think in 2014, he's not been a first overall pick caliber kind of player, but he's an above average left tackle, and he played 467 snaps last year, only gave up 2 penalties, and only gave up 1 sack. He got a 64.5 PFF player grade, and although Fisher doesn't have the talent of a first rounder, he's still a former Pro Bowler, and he won the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs, protecting Patrick Mahomes' blindside. At the left guard position is Andrew Wylie. Wylie last year played 716 snaps, only gave up 3 penalties, and only gave up 2 sacks. He got a 67.4 PFF player grade, but he did miss a little bit of time due to injury. Only played in 11 games, and that's kind of the story of this offensive line. Last year, they weren't really able to stay healthy, but in 2020, if they're able to stay healthy, then this offensive line should be better, and this offense should be even more consistent and more dominant than they were a season ago. At the center position, they have got Austin Reiter. Reiter played in all 16 games last year. He played over 1,000 snaps, gave up 8 penalties, and only gave up 2 sacks. He earned a 63.0 PFF player grade, and at the center of that Chiefs offensive line, he's an above-average player who can be a solid player for this Chiefs offensive line.
Now, you guys may just notice that my face cam just went out. That's actually because at the time of recording, Laurent Duvernay Tardif was going to be playing in the NFL season, but now that he's no longer playing in the NFL season, I've had to reshoot. So Duvernay Tardif's replacement will probably be Kelechi Osemele, who the Chiefs signed up out of free agency after Duvernay Tardif said that he wasn't going to play. Osemele is a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time first-team All-Pro member, and former Super Bowl champion. Last year he played with the Jets, only played in 3 games. He was injured for most of the year, but he did have some good years in Oakland. He's a veteran guy who is a solid guard, and he's been a solid guard in the past, and although he's definitely below average at this point in his career, he's an experienced player to have. They've also got Martinez Rankin. I don't know if Martinez Rankin will end up being that player, but he's another role player. But at the end of the day, Osemele is a below average to average player. And
you know what? If you've got some average players on your offensive line and you've got some elite players on your offensive line, then you're going to be a good offensive line unit. Thankfully, the Chiefs have the best right tackle, or maybe even the second best right tackle in the NFL in Mitchell Schwartz. Mitchell Schwartz is elite. I'm just going to say that right now. He played over 1,000 snaps last year, played in all 16 games, gave up 5 penalties, didn't give up a sack, and earned a 84.0 PFF player grade. He's up there with the best right tackles in the game, and guys like Lyle Collins and Ryan Ramczyk, and he's probably even better than those guys. So look for Mitchell Schwartz to be the anchor for this offensive line. And all in all, if you have one above-average left tackle, you've got an elite right tackle, and you've got 3 solid to average interior offensive linemen, then your offensive line is going to be solid. It's going to be okay. They're nothing special, but nonetheless, they're still an above-average pass protection unit. And although they do struggle in run blocking, I think because the Chiefs' offense is so pass-heavy and they're so reliant on the passing game, then I think they will be fine. If they're carried by Mahomes, if he's able to stay on the field in 2020, and they retooled with their running game with bringing in Clyde Edwards Helaire, they still have got all those options in the wide receivers with all those speed demons, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, and Demarcus Robinson. And, of course, they have the best tight end in the NFL in Travis Kelce. Not to mention, of course, they have Andy Reid, who's probably the best offensive mind in the NFL. And put that all together, this Chiefs offense has a legit shot at being the best offense in the NFL in 2020. I think most people in the NFL community would say that this Chiefs offense is probably the best offense going into 2020. But at the end of the day, there are other good offenses in the NFL. If you look at the Cowboys, the Bucs, the Saints, the Ravens. But the Chiefs are definitely in the conversation, and I think they're almost guaranteed, if Patrick Mahomes is able to stay healthy and their big playmakers are able to stay healthy, then they're almost guaranteed to be a top 3 offense in 2020. Therefore, watch out for this Chiefs offense. They're probably going to be about the same of what they were last year, if not better, especially if Patrick Mahomes is able to stay on the field for all 16 games. All in all, this Chiefs offense is exciting to watch. They can score from anywhere on the field. And I think this Chiefs offense is the reason for any success that the Chiefs end up having in the playoffs next season. And with this offense, and especially with a good defense, I mean, they've got Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones on that defense. They've got playmakers everywhere on this team. And with those playmakers, they have a legit shot at getting back to the Super Bowl and winning it all in 2020. So get excited, Chiefs fans, and get ready and get pumped to watch this Chiefs offense and this Chiefs defense dominate in 2020.
Now that you've reached the end of my video, I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe as it helps my channel out. And check out my other videos on my channel. Also, you can follow my Instagram. The link is in the description down below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, see ya.